If you're struggling with motivation, if you're feeling behind, or you're wondering if your work will ever pay off, this perspective might be the thing that you've been searching for. No fluff, no hype, just real and honest advice I wish someone told me when I first started. We're talking about achieving our goals here and how everyone has something different to say, because there are these gurus, motivators, and all these other people everywhere, right? In part, I'm kind of one of them myself. But the question is, are the things that do and say actually true, and do they actually work? And well, the biggest answer is it depends, and it's also very subjective to the individual. So I kind of did a bit of an experiment myself, so you don't have to if you don't want to. So for the past year, I've been following Alex Hormozis' advice like religiously. And here are the 4 main things that I've learned that, well, changed quite a lot for me and actually put me very ahead. So firstly, we've got delayed gratification. I honestly feel like once you master this, this is like a superpower. This is probably one of the most brutal but most effective pieces of advice of like self-help, of motivation that I've ever followed. But I honestly feel like it has the biggest impact out of everything else. Really isn't easy, but it does change a lot about you as a person and the way you work and the way you get things done. Because when you work with zero regard or zero need for applause or results or people cheering you on or clapping for you and telling you well done, how much of a good job you've done, you never actually need a reason to work. You just work, you just get it done. Because I used to associate hard work with doing long hours and seeing big results, because that's what you always see on social media, right? You always see these people grinding away and making thousands of dollars and just achieving all these other things. When in reality, you're going to do these long hours, you're going to be tired and achieve very little to nothing. For the beginning anyway. Obviously, eventually the results do come, like they always do. But initially, there isn't really anything there. Because the real work that actually moves you forward is the daily, repetitive, boring things that push you forward with no applause. This is honestly the piece of advice I would give myself, because my younger self was very focused on money. Everything was about monetary values. If I didn't earn, that means it wasn't working. That means I should just quit it. And I couldn't even tell you how many things I started and just quit over the past 7-8 years since I started this whole entrepreneurial journey and what have you. So I honestly would say delayed gratification is one of the most important lessons anybody can take on board. Because the mindset shifted from you no longer need things to work, you just work until they do. The next one is just making a choice. Because I feel like sadness comes from a lack of options, which makes it feel like hopelessness. And then anxiety can derive from having loads of options, but a lack of priorities, which is why it can feel overwhelming sometimes. You know, because you're kind of looking everywhere but moving nowhere. The whole analysis paralysis type thing. So you can, you know, partly solve sadness with knowledge and anxiety with a decision. Obviously, in simple terms, there's obviously a lot more depth to it and it's very situational, but I hope you get my point. Because applying this has really changed a lot of how I do things and how I go about things. It's just a matter of do now, polish later. Because I think that's one of the biggest downfalls here, is that people choose not to choose. Because entirely you not choosing is you choosing not to do anything. Because it is. Just like me, I'm choosing to make this video. You chose to watch this. And hopefully you will also choose to subscribe and like. That will really help me out and I appreciate it a lot. Or on the other hand, you get these people that just say yes to everything. They choose too much and end up paralyzing themselves or just falling short because they're just overwhelmed. So I want you to choose yourself until you heal or you become the type of person that you want to become before you start helping other people, working on certain projects, doing this, that and the other. Just keep choosing yourself. I'm not saying you have to stop everything or just never try, because that also comes with choosing yourself. Because when you choose to take things slowly and you reel it in a little bit and you start focusing on yourself, I honestly feel like you'll be able to manage your energy and your knowledge that much better when you start dividing tasks and your focus and doing all these different things. And then by making that choice, you're going to slowly start to see the type of life that you've chosen. The next thing is the weekend. And I'm not talking about the singer here. I'm talking about every single weekend you have, that you go through, that you chill on during the entire year. Because the truth that no one wants to hear is that weekends normally tend to slow them down. I'm not saying you can't rest on a weekend, obviously do so. Recharge, take care of yourself, have better meals than you do throughout the week, go on a longer walk, whatever it may be. Still look after yourself. But there are times during a weekend, I will do an extra 8-hour shift on both days whilst I'm working on the things that I'm working on. And I'm not saying you have to do that much. You can just do a couple hours throughout the whole weekend. That's fine. And if you're doing more, do more. That is entirely up to you. But when you choose to just do nothing but relax during the weekend, it is then unfair for you to complain about a lack of results, because the time was there for you. You just chose to do something different. And once again, that's okay. But the choice was yours. Because another reality is that we get outpaced by people not that work smarter or have some sort of perfect plan behind the scene. It's just the people that simply show up more often than we do. It doesn't necessarily have to mean they work harder, smarter or better. They just show up more often because they're just stacking those days. They're stacking little wins. They're stacking little progresses just throughout the entire year, and it all adds up. Because if you decide to just take every Saturday, Sunday off, that's going to be around, what, 90 to 100 days in a full year that it's not going to do anything in. That's a lot, you know, because like I mentioned, I believe this is how progress is made. You execute now, you learn, and you improve for later. And you can very well do that by optimizing and utilizing the weekends that you have. And if you don't have weekends off because you work different shifts or patterns, well, then the days where you are off. I do believe almost anybody can apply this. And the last point, and I think this is probably one of the most important psychologically, and it's to ignore the noise. Because eventually people are going to criticize you. They're going to watch what you're doing, they're going to laugh about it, make comments, whatever. I just want you to let them. Because the people who always have the most to say are the ones that don't actually do anything themselves, or are jealous of the fact of what you're doing because they want to do that themselves, or they like some sort of quality that you portray as a person. They'll say you're working too hard, they'll say what you're doing is stupid or pointless, they'll say you're just obsessed over nothing, they're going to tell you it's not going to work, it's daft, whatever. They're going to say all sorts of things. If those people don't have the life that you want, then why listen to them? Why does it matter what they say? Because I can tell you now, it really doesn't. There used to be a time where I justified and thought about what I was going to do a little more than I should. And once I stopped doing that, honestly, everything just changed. There is no way I would whip out my phone the way I'm doing right now, whether it's on YouTube or my personal Instagram, and just talk to the camera, not care about what I say, just say what I think, say what I want, say what I want to portray, and upload it to the internet. I'd be terrified. Everything would have to be perfect, everything would have to be scripted, everything would have to be this, that, and the other. And it boxed me in, it put me in a little cage, and it was terrible. And I'm really glad I got over that. I mean, it took a while. It definitely wasn't something you just do. It takes effort and patience and a lot of just trying. But once you start ignoring the noise, honestly, just everything changes. Everything. Because everybody gonna think what you're doing is, you know, stupid until it works, right? So just keep going. Keep going, keep trying, keep showing up. Because one day they're gonna say, oh, I used to know them, or I used to work with them, or we went to school together, and that's all they'll be able to say. Trust me. And yeah, they probably did know you, but they knew an old version of you, someone that you're not, because you've changed, you've transformed over all those years, while they stayed the same. So if you're tired, you're uncertain, and you just feel like you have absolutely no idea what you're doing, you're not doing anything wrong. What you're doing is trying, and you're trying to grow, and you're trying to get better. And that's very, very commendable. Honestly, following Alex Hormozis' advice for the past couple of years, and especially for the past year, just like religiously, has changed a lot for me. And I recommend you do the same. Look up to someone. Look up to somebody that lives a life that you want, that have the things that you want. Because after all, well, they got there somehow, right? I'm not saying copy them blindly. I'm not saying you have to do exactly what they do. But just applying some of their techniques, some of their mindsets, some of the values they live by. Try it. See what happens. Trial it. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. There's a lot of people out there with a lot of different opinions and a lot of different approaches to anything and everything out there. So you're bound to find your pick eventually. So, whether you're an entrepreneur, a creator, or if you're just simply trying to just get a little better, I hope this video has helped and lights that little fire under you to push you in that direction. Thank you, and good luck with whatever it is that you're doing.